what's coming up next is Crossfire, is what I was calling it, which is going to be all the participants of all of the fireside chats are going to join together in one major, massive group chat, and they're going to have a great time.
We're live.
We're real now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
All right.
I just want to chime in really quick that I don't know if the ladies were able to read the comments. I think that you guys just brought the house down with this kind of Fleetwood Mac vibing, charisma blast.
We did it.
Yeah, we did
Oh,
it.
good.
It was so good.
I know. I was so excited to see Catherine today.
We'll see Marika.
Yeah,
I want you guys to have a podcast about Mike every week.
Actually, let's do this. Maybe if it's not about Mike, let's call it the Bechdel test and see how long they can go without.
I don't know if the joke ended at the end, but does anyone deserve to be talked about this much? And
I know.
I think our answer is no.
Yeah.
That's the subtext of this whole thing, right?
But we're all here.
Right, here we are.
But Patrick, I'm excited because I feel Marika and I were chatting through all of the conversations because we were like, what do we want to talk about? Also, like, let's not blow our load and but stop. But also, let's keep talking about Mike because we never get to talk about Mike in person.
Just furious texting.
Furious texting, for sometimes hours. But the main thing I heard was that you also want to push him in more interesting, sort of vulnerable directions.
Yeah, 100%. I think that my thesis, I don't know if you guys heard it, but the basic idea was I think there were some very large peaks and valleys when, previously, we haven't seen as many of those large peaks or valleys in a little while. I'm making generalizations, of course. And so I think that's good for him, and I think that's good for the project as well. And I think if we can align those two things, we can do some really cool stuff for Mike.
What are the other parts so obviously there's relationship. The society is built on human relationships. So it's relationships. Are there other areas that you would like to see growth, examination, investigation?
Yeah, what's funny? Marcus kind of said this at the end, and I know you guys are getting prepped, but I don't know Mike anywhere near as well as any of you, right? And so
you don't know him sexually at all.
No, we've never been.
But Jen apparently does.
Yeah, I think honestly one of the themes I'm getting is more gay stuff would be probably welcome.
That's right.
I think.
Do ask, do tell.
Yeah.
There you go. But in all
Mike, I'm sorry, man.
In all seriousness, though, I think it actually probably would be great for the brand. But I think it's one of those things where, as
I am sure that is not the way to go. I promise you, no matter Pride Month, do not say I'm for Pride Month, I'm going gay. That's not a thing.
You can explore. No, I'm just kidding. But,
he can?
Maybe give it a share price.
Right. I guess I do have to buy shares now.
Yeah. I do think, though, as an outsider, so this is, I wasn't bullshitting with, this is one of the most creative projects, I think, that's out there, in kind of the Venn diagrams of, capitalism, art, kind of a couple of other pieces. And so I think that there's this world where, I don't know. I followed Mike from afar, which sounds kind of uncomfortable. But it's one of those things where I think that there's the professional development of Mike and just where he kind of goes as the capstones of his career now, I think is really fascinating. Because there's so much creativity there and there's so much organizational talent that there's got to be something there that we can push him towards. But again, you would know oh yeah, maybe you should try this or maybe you should try that better than I would.
I was hoping you could tell me because I have the same feeling.
Doesn't it kind of feel like he's waiting to be discovered rather than I'm going to pick this thing and then go kill it, right?
The preteen at the mall just eating.
Yeah.
He was falling asleep on my lap last night, and I was telling him, I was looking at his, genuinely beautiful face. He's a gorgeous man, and I was petting his head, And I was like, oh, you are the archetype of the puer aeternus, like you are the Peter Pan, you know? And so he was like, what is the puer aeternus? And I was like, oh, I'll like read you the Wikipedia entry. And it's like, you know, the positive side is just like, it's hope, it's potential, it's energy. And then the negative side was like, it's someone who's always waiting for his ship to come in. And Mike was like, what's the problem with that? And I was like, well,
sounds comfortable.
Sounds in as a television writer, it sounds reactive as opposed to proactive. So, you know, I'm curious about exactly that thing. Mike has a niche. Let's find what it is.
Do you think he just needs more reps? Because like for some, no, I know he's got a lot.
Like he needs better branding?
No. More like so when you have someone from, you know.
Oh, you're gonna listen. I'm bad at business.
Yeah, biz speak.
Give biz speak, like repetitions.
Yeah. So biz speak. So we have a whole media team, and the thing that we do with a lot of creatives, and I think Mike is a fantastic creative with his career, is like it's just more reps, right?
Right.
And so squeezing down basically like the feedback cycle. So instead of having these like 3-month, 6-month, 12-month feedback cycles, like getting Mike into a place where it's like monthly or even weekly, because it's really uncomfortable and you have to ship. And Mike, you were kind of talking about this.
Mike's gonna love it if you put it into a framework.
A system, yeah.
That's brilliant, because that's exactly what it is. It's like, I think that Mike lacks, and I love him, Mike, wherever you are. Maybe your spirit has left your body and you're dead. But Mike is not great at sort of like rigorous accountability. And I would love to see a framework, because it's like he operates within systems and frameworks that pushes him towards exactly that. Like,
but he can move farther toward it. When Patrick and Marcus were talking about like, does Mike ship?
Right.
I was standing next to Mike downstairs in the studio, and I was like, well, you didn't used to at all. Like he'd have a notebook full of ideas, and he would barely start any of them, and they were brilliant, all of them.
Yeah.
But like, ships, like, but he's shown that growth, and it makes me think like, oh, there's so much more with the right system.
There really was a moment in the end of our relationship where, you know, he got the negative review, and there was a culling of projects right after that, where he was like, I've got like 30 projects on the books, and I can point to all of them and say I haven't made good on all of these, you know. And he did have this come to Jesus moment where it was like, let's put it to bed. Let's the
project reorg.
Yeah, let's do the project reorg. And so maybe there's some like larger sense of that to get.
I mean, I was basically just like, Mike, I'm freaking out. I need you to go to therapy. And then he didn't. But then like recently he's just been like, I'll come to therapy with you. And now he's completely open to it. It's like, once pushed,
he'll get in there.
Yeah. He ships self-actualization. That's a mystery. I'm curious. This is an interesting topic. Like whether, you know, it's a very broad question. Shipping, right? It's put in the context of a commercial, like software development thing. So it's by definition it feels commercial, and we're measuring things that aren't commercial. It's just the question. I guess here's the because when you ask me, I say he ships, right? It's a little bit debatable, because there is so much excitement over the ideation that some of the fulfillment is happening during the ideation. And that can be a problem, because the question is, do we want to see it actually performed, or is it merely conceptual? And I think this covers a lot of territory, like this kind of split. What I was going to say is that Mike does touch, like in the final reckoning, he's grounded. He would be pissed if he didn't ship. And I think that's what's redeeming. I don't know that Josh, when you tell me that, like, as a teenager, you know, was he essentially a completed shipping oriented person? It doesn't surprise me that something he's just kind of pushed himself to out of a value system, and it may not be really intrinsic in him. I don't know.
I think there might be a difference between like shipping in many directions and then shipping deep, right? And what I mean by that is like, so again, outside observer, I think the one thing that Mike has like shipped deep is this community, right? And it's from friends, it's from all of these different things. But then kind of the layer on top. So when you're thinking of like growing something, I would argue from a brand perspective, like you have the product, and that's like KmikeyM, right? And the product like has a quality level and all these other things. But then there's this layer on top of it that you have to basically create channels, right? Like anyone who's just marketing, like you have to create these channels, and the channels are like, you know, in a really simple way, like his YouTube presence, his Twitter presence, his, you know, the newsletter presence, the things that he does that like brings people into the project. And I think from a project perspective, like there's a world where it's like, he's just going to focus on YouTube. He's just going to focus on Twitter for a while, which is like a very channel specific thing. And then there's like the professional development, like depth that might be like, Mike's just going to focus on like this 3-minute podcast that he has with you. And he's just going to like go deep and like refine. And that has a natural shipping cycle of every single day. Right. This is what I mean by reps, right? Like reps in general, creativity are like really important to develop, like I would argue like a creative media ethos, which I think Mike has in spades, but it's like how he applies that like is not going like really deep, at least in anything that I've seen. But again, I don't have like the full.
No, that's the whole problem. Is that like I see it as an XY axis, right? And it's just like he's great at skipping along the surface, and I want to see what happens when it's just like he drills down, which is like an argument that we've had.
Well, it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Too. It's really uncomfortable because you're like you get bored. Because you're like, shit, I got to do this the 6th and 7th time, not just the first 3 times, which are kind of exciting, right? And then it also like sucks because you run out of ideas, right? And like it's like you have to take ideas that work elsewhere and like apply. And so maybe that's the thing. I don't know what the bounds are, like if it's a channel, if it's like a project, like it could be like, I mean, there's really basic examples of this of like, oh, we're going to do 100 photos in a row. You know, those types of things are you know, relatively basic, but are really good at developing that skill, which could be interesting. I don't know.
I would posit that the community is both like a boon and a bane in this way, in that the community could potentially provide the support for that transformation, but often provides the immediate satisfaction once he's presented the idea. And there is sort of a gap between the reality of Mike and the perception of Mike, even within his close circles. And this is something Catherine and I didn't really get into in our talk, but like, you know, people would come to Mike and be like, hey, like, I need investing advice. And I'd be like, I fucking work in finance. Like, it doesn't make money. Like, you know, like, so the community can come together and be this great mode of support, but
it needs to be based on like an honest,
I don't want it, like you don't want it to be the crutch. Like you don't want it to be like,
well, I think it's the friends.
The community supports me.
Yeah.
This is what I was trying to get at a little bit with Marcus. It's a little bit of the friend phenomenon, right? Like this you naturally become friends with Mike if you're part of this community, even if you haven't met him for coffee or even if you just hang out, because like, you know, he's got his, I don't know what you called it, his cherub face, his beautiful face. He's a quirky dude. He's fun to like talk with, that type of thing. And all of a sudden, like that, it's really hard. Like sometimes like going to your friends to push you is really, really difficult. You kind of need like that friend who sometimes like makes you feel bad. Or, you know, that person who's, you know, more of a mentor or more of an advisor than anything. And so I think that might be something to kind of think about too, is like, how does Mike use the community? How does the community help Mike? Like, I don't know if that it's like changing structure of votes. I don't know if it's changing structure of like the comment section. I don't know what it is.
I think it's changing structure of like what his goals are is the thing. Like because, you know, I think that Marcus and I have never like hung out one-on-one. But every time Marcus and I hang out with like Marcus's partner, Amy, and me and Mike, like right before Amy and Mike will be giving a hug and like, and I'll be like, who's inside Mike? And Marcus is like, we'll never know. And then he'll like leave the house. And it's like, you know, because I think that we're both his uncomfortable friends, like me as his girlfriend and Marcus is one of his dear friends. We are able to ask Mike the uncomfortable question, but it's also like, if Mike is not presenting, you know, the thing that he's actually grappling with, then we're just shooting in the dark. Like, and I want to like Jed, who's not said a lot during this, and who I deeply love, and we met last summer in Washington, D.C. And like, I guess I want to ask you, like, you knew Mike when he was in his late teenage, early 20s. Like, what was he grappling with then? What essential things did you see in Mike that you were interested in that made him like that made you want to be his friend and pursue, like, you've been friends now for 25 years. So it's like, what was that about Mike that you loved?
So I'm actually going to not address that because, this
Thank
whole
you.
thing that is not something that he or any other guy needs to do. I just want to cut that off right there. It absolutely should not be a thing that guys need more feelings. That's horrible, 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 and evil. So actually, I wanted to kind of back away from that a little bit. You guys are talking about how to get more get Mike driving deeper into various topics, right? And you're all thinking about how to enhance understanding of him, delve deeper into his emotional understanding and all this kind of stuff. But I want to key back on what you said about accountability. I think it was you, Josh, right? You mentioned he doesn't have that accountability.
I'm sure it was me.
It's definitely Catherine.
Okay. So accountability, if you're looking at it from this shareholder, this model of it as a business, that invites framing the question, and it invites the ability to kind of move around to frame the question in a way so that he will be in his comfort zone. If you do it in a data-driven sense, so that you're making more binary choices more often, more frequently, with less investment, he has less ability to frame that, because the data is, and the iterations of it, you can iterate over it more quickly, and there is less ability for him to frame those. And you can end up, essentially turning him into an AI device. You can do Mike learning instead of machine learning. And force him into a situation where, if these decisions are smaller but made quicker and with whatever input is available on it, whether that be a full vote, whether that just be comments, whether that just be whoever happens to be in the room, I think that is a way to develop that accountability where it's numbers, and you can see the patterns over time, and you can see that change, and you can say, okay, this is how the model develops. How Mike develops in this direction. This is how it develops if we're going that direction. And having tested this way and that way and this way as well, we can see that option C is the best model to fit the situation. It's the best relationship model for him. This is the best business model for him. And that may
I will say this. I don't mean this in a disparaging way. I think we have here the dichotomy between the ideal female form of intimacy with a man, and Jetta's saying this is what male intimacy represents. Is I need more data on my friend, and I need tighter feedback.
Suggest that like a dynamic, long-lasting relationship is contingent upon mutual growth, right? And so what you're saying is, let's not grow him at all. Let's just figure him out and use them, and it's like, she's not gonna stick around for that.
No.
That's
got a problem.
What I find very funny is that when I look at Mike's attempts to kind of extend the project into different forms of loss of agency, he fantasizes about something like this, to be clear. You remember, like, what have we seen experiments with votes that are more ephemeral, that can come in more real time? He wants to give up more and more of his control. It's frustrating to him that he's not technically able to, and maybe that we're not engaged enough to just like be with him in every moment, helping him decide between small color choices in the moment. And this is an interesting question. If we had the power to do that, would we actually want, like, number one, would Catherine want to live with a man like that? Where is that?
I'm
interested.
I mean, if he vacuumed,
yeah, like the Roomba actually.
For sure.
The thing that if you meet people outside this project, and there's a certain type of person, maybe 1 out of 4 people that hear about this and they just go, this is the fucking devil, all of this. Who is this guy? It represents something that they can't quite put their finger on, something abject. And I think that its abjectness increases as we go deeper into this. I would refer to it as a fantasy, essentially. I'll say this: what I'm interested in is the psychoanalytic dimension of this. Because it's so not me. None of this project blows my mind. But the fact that Mike wants more of this shit, that's a different way that it blows my mind all the time.
Of course,
and it's
Mark
funny, like
take it psychosexual. So.
yeah, I mean,
like we brought him here for that, so you know.
I guess I'm just punching the clock over here. I don't know. Does self-actualization for Mike lie within this project or outside of it? I guess that's the question.
The projects, if we accumulated all that data, like the projects that seem to feed Mike are those that he does in community, right? Like, Patrick was talking about like, well, what if he focused on one channel or like one project that gets a lot of reps? Like if it were something like the 3-minute review podcast, like it wouldn't work if it was just the two of you. That wouldn't be interesting enough to him. That wouldn't feed him. That wouldn't be something that like is engaging enough. And I mean, the projects, to me, it seems like he's satisfied when he's working with people to craft, whatever crazy idea it is, or at least getting feedback from it, at least like feeling like it's being done not in public, but like in community. Mm-hmm. And so like, I'm not sure that fits like channel X or channel Y necessarily. Like the thing that for whatever channel you're going to get a bunch of reps on, it's going to have that quality of being with this community.
You don't think he would be satisfied doing 3-minute review with just me?
It's happening on it that is cool. It's like
I'm like, this is our relationship.
I think
wait a second.
You guys keep getting every time she eats anything.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But you get feedback and you talk about it and people are like making and that's always really interesting. And I think if it didn't have that, I think it would be kind of dead. It would be kind of dead end. It'd be into a void.
Right.
I guess I would also just put out there that like when I've seen Mike most engaged, it's engaging in and working on other people's projects where he's like, I'm interested in what you're doing and I have some things I could say about it and help, like organize your thoughts around it. And there was a time right before we split where he was meeting with a bunch of my friends who were like small business owners, and every single one of them was like, this was so valuable to me.
Doing the business therapy thing.
Yes. He was doing business therapy and Mike was like, I don't want to charge for it. And I was like, if you don't charge for it, you're moving out. Like, like you have to. I don't care if they're my friends, but every single one of them was like, this was incredibly valuable for me. And this person helped me understand my business.
The why behind what I was doing. No, for sure.
And he loved it. You know, like he would stay up until 1 a.m, like putting his Post-it notes up and writing all his, and getting ready because Jen's coming over. And
he loved doing that stuff.
Yeah.
The Jack Reacher thing. I mean, if he can do that, as like the equalizer, he goes into people, shareholders or other people in the community and fixes their problems, then, what was that comedy show, Nathan For You?
Nathan For You.
Yeah. He could do that.
This is interesting. Like,
Mike's next.
He's an old friend of mine. Like, it's a very Canadian thing. Like, we don't want any credit. We're just like coming in and helping out.
Yeah.
It keeps coming up, like a project that we all have ahead of us is helping Mike figure out his work, because it's quite interesting to kind of, if we were all to collectively give a vision for what have we seen Mike do that he actually like really loves, but importantly also seems to provide like a reasonable source of value coming back at him. Mm-hmm. And I think that what I have to identify in Mike is that there is some long crisis around this topic. I don't know if when he's been happily employed, I don't know that it was pushing him hard enough. Mm-hmm. And then when in other circumstances where he's been sort of fulfilled in theory entrepreneurially all the agency you want for a creative guy, there's something else that really kind of he comes to deep unhappiness in his work in a repetitive way. So this is a big crisis in any person's life, and it's not an immediate material crisis. He's good. He's okay. He's figuring it out. But let's help him figure out what he should be doing. Because bunch of different questions there. Should Mike go march in and get another job? Is he just going to end up? Yeah.
Do we know, has Mike ever? I know therapy was a little bit of a long trek, but was something like career coaching? Like, has he ever done career coaching ever?
I don't think so. And I've had the exact same thought. I'm like, if like therapy is sort of like anathema for now, like what does career coaching look like? Because it's like the thing about Mike, like as his partner, like I don't need him to make a shitload of money. Like I'm a fucking Hollywood writer. Sorry to be like, guys, I'm a Hollywood writer, but like,
she knows
kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal.
I can share, like, and it's not bad, but it's like, I want Mike to find his purpose, and it's like I have a tremendous sense of purpose every day I wake up. I'm like, I have to fight off these stupid executives, or I have to keep getting mad at the guys I'm making the show with, but I have to write, and it's confusing, it's exciting, but I have a sense of purpose when I wake up, and it's like sometimes I feel like the KmikeyM project is like it's a sense of purpose, but I'm like, to what end? Like, to what end? And so I agree. I'm like, what does career coaching look like? I would love
to do that. Yeah, there's a lot of like stuff you can do online, but then there's probably some people that, I don't know, like there's some exercises Mike could do just around like, what is he good at? What is he not good at? What does he love to do? What does he not love to do? Like just looking at the intersections of those things, and maybe there's a summit or a council, amongst the shareholders who looks at all that data. And
this is a project. This is a project. This is
purpose sounds good to me.
But this is a thing that the community hasn't done much of, like worked on his behalf. Like we expect stuff from him because we're shareholders. But when do we put sweat equity into like the KmikeyM project? Like not that much. No. That's not a thing that he's asked us.
You're
for,
waiting
maybe.
for deliverables.
But that's an interesting flip to
there we go.
Well,
that's a really good point, Josh. That's a really good point.
Analysis I can share of Mike.
What is it?
I meant to bring it up and like pull it up today and bring it, but it tells you, strengths, weaknesses, working styles. Like it's pretty interesting and it's fun to look at. But I will send it out to the share.
It's deeper. It's a deeper trip than like an astrology chart. I remember seeing it. It's insanely detailed. It's crazy.
Definitely deeper than Enneagram and all the rest of those. It's pretty.
Yeah. Did he ever like post that? Or that might be an interesting move as part of Project Purpose.
Yeah,
I love this, guys. I'm loving this.
Project Purpose.
Name now it's real.
I'm gonna send it to Catherine, and she can be the mastermind of it.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. Jed, what were you gonna say?
This might be literally the only time that I've been jealous of Mike for being in this circumstance. The rest of this project, from my perspective, seems like a huge burden.
Like working to make
trying to figure out.
I wish.
Great. Yeah,
everybody wants this, right? Like, everybody should be so lucky to have all.
Wait, Jed's leaning in.
So, what I was just going to say is, when you talk about like Enneagrams and doing analysis, we don't want Project Purpose to be about finding his emotional purpose, because emotional purpose, that's what he's got from KmikeyM, right? He's got emotional fulfillment.
No, we're trying to get him to make money.
Exactly.
But also,
I'm trying to get him to make some money.
Shadow shareholders, see what they're doing and find out what he's good at. Do projects for shareholders.
Shadowing shareholders, that's interesting.
That's a cool idea.
And demonstrate value added to them so that we can see what he's good at, put it into a format where it can be data driven and we can make cold hard business decisions.
This could be the reps.
Yeah.
2 weeks shadowing. 2 weeks. Probably. I mean, there's plenty of shareholders there's plenty of shareholders great, I can pay for the consulting project, something like that. So there's actual money in addition to that type of stuff.
Oh my God, Patrick, I'll do whatever you want. Whatever you need. Yeah, we have to talk.
He's good at so much stuff, right? Like part of shadowing could be he could work on one of these projects that he was working on with the small businesses. There's a ton of business people in the group. So it's and I don't believe in people doing shit for free. So it's just one of those things that kind of gets interesting.
It seems like we need an Airtable link to pop up now for everyone to pop their interest in. If you want to be part of Project Purpose, click this link now. But after
Project Purpose,
post this, I think we'll put the community together.
Yeah,
right? Out of the community.
And I think that out of all of these chats, that I hope we're so uncomfortable for Mike on so many levels. I think that I'm so glad. I think that Project Purpose is something to figure out in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And then I think that'll solve my life potentially with him.
Anyone would be thrilled to have their community.
I just want people to help me. But thanks for, we're going to wrap up.
We're going to wrap up and we're going to transition to poker in a little bit.
Oh my God, we're going to play poker in a second.
Well, yeah.
I still don't know anything about poker, so I'm excited to host this with you.
That's great. I'm glad you didn't learn anything about poker in the last year.
I was so drunk when we did the last one. So all I know is that I feel like I was like, you taught me what a river was, and then I was screaming about abortions like
Cool.
So we'll try to do that again. Guys, thanks for coming. Thanks for being, you guys. Patrick, I'm calling you in 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'm off a 16-hour flight, so I'm going to
okay.
So,
in 16 hours, I'll be your first call.
We can chat whenever. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for coming to the summit, you guys.
Amazing.
See everyone. This was great.
Goodbye.